Okay, so I'm going to post a couple of videos this week, some calculator-specific stuff that I think will be really helpful. So one of them is going to come right from our homework. This is number 17 in section 4.1, also 4.131. But use the probability distribution to complete the parts below. So we have number of defects, which is a discrete random variable. It takes on the value of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then the probability of each of these. So we talked about if this is a valid probability distribution, then these probabilities should add up to 1. They're not asking us to do that at this point, but we want to find the mean, the variance, and the standard deviation. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your calculator, and we can review this. We haven't done this in a couple of weeks now, but you're using your stat key. So we go to stat and then edit. Right? The only way for the calculator to know what numbers we're working with is by using stat and edit. Okay, so do that first. Enter those values as you see them on your screen first. Okay, and the second part of this may or may not be review. I think the first or second, maybe the second week of class, I did do some group data where we had a variable here and its frequency of occurrence over here. This is going to be similar to that. It's like calculating a weighted average, which I think is the example that we gave in class for this. Okay. So we had stat and edit, and just like previously, when we worked with the calculator a lot, we used stat and then calculate. So I want to go over to calculate, and these are one variable statistics: mean, standard deviation, variance. Those are all one variable stats. Okay, so we're going to select number 1, and now here's where it's going to look a little bit different. If you don't have a screen that looks like this, sit tight. I'll show you what your screen will look like in a minute. But we want to tell the calculator that our actual values of our variable are in L1. And then our frequency list, which is really important, is in L2. So if you remember, L2 is here in blue or whatever color it's in. You're going to hit your second key and then the number 2. So now this lets the calculator know that both of these lists are in play. It's really one list where the variable is, but the second list is really important in calculating the statistics. So I'm going to press enter for calculate. And now you're going to notice mysteriously there's no sample standard deviation. The reason for that is the calculator knows right away that this is a legitimate probability distribution for a random variable because the probabilities all added up to 1, which means there is no sampling here. We know that we have the whole entire population, right? We have every 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the only things that can happen, and we have the probabilities that they happen, so the calculator knows we're not taking a sample here. So all that's in play now is the population standard deviation, okay? So here's my mean, 1.43. Here's my standard deviation. And then the other thing that our problem asks us for is the variance. So the calculator does not give us the variance straight away here. We could probably calculate it another way, but I think it would complicate things more. If I want the variance, I just take my standard deviation and I square it. Okay, so right here on my home screen, I can take that 1.2186 4679, and I can just go ahead and square that. Okay, so that's the standard deviation. Variance is standard deviation squared. So if I square that, that's going to give me my variance. Okay, and then I can go back to the problem here and enter those values in. So the first thing they wanted was the mean. Round to 1 decimal place. So for us to 1 decimal place, that would have been 1.4. We had 1.43. Okay. The variance, which I just calculated, we only want 1 decimal place. So we have way more than we needed. So that would probably be 1.5. We're good there. And then finally the standard deviation, which the calculator gave me straight away to 1 decimal place, that was just 1.2. Okay, so the calculator takes away a lot of the heavy lifting and formulas that we would need in order to calculate or answer those types of questions.